President Trump is in Pittsburgh today for the inaugural Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit. He's expected to announce a record $90 billion private sector investment in expanding the state's energy and AI capabilities. That event is taking place at Carnegie Mellon University, and there's been some pushback over the administration wanting to rely on fossil fuels for the nation's future energy needs and the use of artificial intelligence for surveillance. Also making news today is Russia saying it is not threatened by President Trump's ultimatum to issue 100% secondary tariffs on the Kremlin. That's if it does not reach a deal with Ukraine in the next 49 days. President Trump addressed that rejection before leaving the White House.
Well, at the end of 50 days, if we don't have a deal, it's going to be too bad. The tariffs are going to go on and other sanctions go on.
Should Zelensky target Moscow or deeper into Russia?
No, he shouldn't target Moscow.
And CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now with more on this. Let's start with Pennsylvania. What do we know about the president's plans for the Keystone State?
Well, Nancy, this is a huge day for the state of Pennsylvania and for President Trump because this administration is putting a real focus on artificial intelligence and really trying to win the race as other countries also try to become global leaders in this space. And as you mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Pennsylvania is set to announce about $90 billion of private sector investments, including $25 billion from Google as one example that would help train some of these systems. And when you think about, what does energy have to do with AI? AI requires a lot of it, actually, when you're talking about all those machines that have to input data and store it and, be able to output it to users. It's a really huge and significant amount of energy. And so that's where Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania comes along because they have sort of the infrastructure there already from being a former energy central and steel manufacturing place. So this is a big deal for President Trump, and he will certainly probably take a victory lap as he has taken credit before for bringing in all of these businesses to the U.S. instead of going elsewhere to invest in AI, Nancy.
And Weijia, as you know, President Trump is threatening hefty sanctions on Russia if it does not come to a deal with Ukraine. But Russian officials are saying they aren't concerned with those tariffs, chalking them up as theatrics. What does that mean for negotiations moving forward?
Well, it certainly sounds like Russia is not going to be pressured. At least that is the outward public messaging, right? That they're not going to be, that they won't change their course of action because of these sanctions. Now, it's important to note these sanctions are not directly on Russia for the most part, but they are secondary. And that makes them way more powerful, Nancy, because the U.S. and Russia doesn't really have a big trade partnership. We don't import a lot of things from Russia and vice versa. But these secondary sanctions on countries that do business with Russia, like India, Brazil, China, if they stop doing business with Russia because they don't want to face these gargantuan tariffs from the United States, that could really cripple Russia's financial capability and their ability to sell oil to these other countries. So even though they are saying right now that, they do not think this is going to, really move the needle, that this is all theatrics, it depends on what those other countries do, right? If they stop purchasing oil from Moscow, that really chokes the amount of financial flow into Russia, and that could really change the game for Vladimir Putin. But certainly right now, it does not seem they are very moved by what President Trump is threatening.
Weijia Jiang, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much.